Hi, everyone. Hello. My name is Anna. Welcome to the webinar. We are just starting in 5 minutes, waiting for everyone to join. For now, let's check whether you can hear me and see me well. Can you let me know in the chat box if you can hear and see well? Okay, thank you. Thank you. I see some responses that you can hear and see well. Great. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. While we're still waiting, the traditional question is, where are you watching the webinar from? Can you share the cities, the towns, the places you are in now in the chat box? Let's see the geography of the webinar today. Okay, Natalia is from Dnipro. Hello. Elizaveta is from Odessa. Okay. Dnipro, great. Yulia, Kiev, Timofey, Kiev. Lilia, Vinnytsia, welcome. Natalia Zvenihorodka. Okay, thank you. Svetlana Kremenchuk. Okay. Hello. Kramatorsk, Ostap, Poltava, Ivana. Hello, hi. Okay, thank you very much. Just a couple more minutes and we're starting, so stay with us. We're going to have lots of things to talk about today and lots of work to do.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yes, hello, hi.
Hi, yeah. Do we have some like cutoff time of this conference, like approximate duration?
The approximate duration, you mean how long the webinar
Yeah.
is, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
1 hour, perhaps a little bit more.
Okay.
1 hour, something minutes, okay?
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, just one more minute and we're starting. I see one of our participants, Munira, you raised a hand. So can you let me know in the chat box if you have any questions? And we have more people joining us. Irina, hello from Nikopol. Hello from Lutsk, Tatiana.
Hello.
Munira, if you need something, just let me know in the chat box, okay? Елена from Черкасy, Svetlana from Chernivtsi, okay. Nice to meet you, nice to see you. Okay, let's get started bit by bit. A few housekeeping moments. We are keeping our mics off for the reason that we should be hearing just the speaker at this webinar. If you have questions, if you need something, please type in the chat box, okay? If we were a smaller group of people, of course, we would be communicating all together, but just so that everyone can hear well, we do need to keep our mics off. I'm going to be talking about testing and assessment today, showing you lots of resources. My colleague Irina in the chat, she's going to be helping you if you have some technical problems, and she's going to be sending the links to everything we're talking about during the webinar. After the webinar, you're going to receive a recording, the presentation, and of course, the certificates. So don't worry, you'll get the certificate if you attended the webinar today. Everyone who's here, it will be there, okay? Yeah, so what we're going to talk about, the outline of our session today, are the 3 key points: principles of assessment, principles of good testing practice, and tools and resources that you might find helpful to prepare for exams, to make tests, and things like that. The reason why I've chosen this topic today is because I've also been there when you as a teacher have to come up with some kind of a test to check students' knowledge or progress, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to make a test. So is it going to be something that is going to really measure what I want to measure? Are the results going to be trustworthy and valid? How am I going to give feedback to my students and things like that? Test making is generally a whole science, and it's a whole big topic to cover. Today we're looking at just some tips and some things that are the basis of test making and assessment, and I believe that this will help you in your own test making, as well as understanding the logic and the science behind international exams and the reason why they are made in this or that way. And I hope we have some time for a Q&A, of course. Now, before we get started, I have a suggestion for us all on how to give feedback to each other. Zoom does provide some, icons and things like that, but today we're going to be using these symbols in the chat box. So in case you are happy with what you're hearing, you think that this is interesting, please type a smiley face in the chat box. Okay, so if it's something that sparks your ideas or inspires you, or you just find it interesting and useful, that's a smiley face that you're going to type. Then we have a question mark. A question mark stands for a question. If you have one, better version is quicker version is to type in the chat box, and I'll be reading this one, the chat box all the time. So if you have a question, if you feel that the term, which, we're going to come across some of them today, some complex things, is not understandable, or you need more explanation, just type a question mark. The exclamation mark is for something that you think is really important and you want everyone to pay attention to. So if you feel that this is really important, this is, something that you want yourself and your colleagues to remember, that's an exclamation mark. Let's try and let's see how well we've remembered those symbols. So if you are happy with what you're hearing, you are typing what? Can you do it in the chat box now, please? Okay, yes, smiley faces, lots of them, great. All right, lots of smiley faces, thank you. If you think that this is something important, something you want everyone to pay attention to, yes, great, exclamation mark. Okay, and a question. If you have one, you type this mark in the chat box. Perfect, thank you very much. First test done. Okay, joking, of course. One more thing, when we come across some tasks during the webinar, some of them might look challenging or confusing to you. Please don't be upset or think that you don't know it and it's really bad. Just pat yourself on the back if you've done the task, and whether the answer was correct or no, that's a star for you for doing it. Okay, so if you are involved, if you are typing the answers in the chat box, you get a star. The imaginary ones, I won't throw them at you. I will, but in my mind, so you will get stars from me in the distance. But just give yourself a star when you have done a certain task today related to assessment. Okay. So stars and smiley faces. Here we have a picture, which is kind of an ironic description related to testing. Can you please take a look at it? Perhaps you've seen it, on Facebook or somewhere. How is that related to testing? And what is the message here? What is the key idea that this illustration is conveying? What is the message related to assessment? Can you type your thoughts in the chat box, please? So it says, I'm going to read it out for everyone to see. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. First answers are coming. Olga, there are different tests for these goals. Yes. Every student, everyone is special. Everyone is different. Yes. It's not a fair exam. Yes. For every student should be different tests. Yes. Different level of knowledge. Purposes may be different. Different level. Yes. Yes. Agree. Thank you all for your responses. I'll summarize and explain a bit more. The idea here is that testing and assessment should provide equal opportunities, fair conditions to everyone taking them, and they should take into account the abilities, especially the physical one. And this is the great situation when we talk about the physical abilities in the first place of the test takers or of the candidates. So equality and fairness are the very core of any kind of testing, and the conditions and the tasks should be the ones that could equally be tackled by anyone taking it. So fair chances for everyone, and then we're going to see how the students are dealing with them. Yes, and hopefully you never come across a test like that, and your students as well. So right now we're coming to our first terminology task, which is quite important for us in order for us to move on with our next slides and things relates to assessment. Here we have the terms related to either tests and the types and kinds of tests or assessments. Can you find pairs of terms that you can put together and say that they are either opposites or they are somehow related according to a certain principle, or they have something in common? So can you find pairs of terms and type them in the chat box? We'll see the answers a bit later. Let's now find pairs of the terms in the chat box. Diagnostic placement, okay. Indirect, informal, placement diagnostic, the same. Olga, we're going to talk about that. Formal, informal, yes. Computer-based, paper-based. Progress, achievement, great. Formal, direct, could be, yeah, it could be grouped that way. Formal, informal, yes. Formal, informal, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Great responses, yes. So here is the suggested principle of how we can group them. Of course, there are different classifications. That's not the official one. That is just the way to perhaps store these terms and this kind of information in our head, because we know that the words, the information is stored in the form of either mind maps or associations when we learn something. Yes, so it's easier, for me at least, it's easier to remember when they are kind of paired or when they are associated with something. Formal and informal assessment. The formal assessment is the one that evaluates students' knowledge or progress or skills or abilities in a formal way via testing. Informal assessment is the continuous observation and monitoring of the students' progress and performance that is done usually in and outside the classroom during the whole period of learning. So the informal assessment happens when you observe what your students are doing, when you look at the works they are doing, when you give feedback, when you track the amount of work they do, and you informally assess their progress. Formal is the proof of their achievement. Now, placement and diagnostic test. This one sometimes causes a bit of confusion. A placement test is the test that is used in order to find out the student's level and to place the student accordingly to a certain level or a course. Okay, so when a student comes to a language school, in our center, for instance, we have that for our students of any age and level. They take a placement test, and then we recommend them to join a certain course according to the level they have demonstrated. And the placement test is usually adapted to the program and to the level system of the school. So you cannot just, it's not common. However, sometimes we do that too. You cannot just give a simple general English test. If you have quite a diverse and complex system of levels, groups, and things like that. So in our center, we have developed our own placement test, which exists in two forms, paper and computer. Diagnostic test. This is the test that you do with your students in order to find out the gaps in their knowledge. You get a group of students, and then you diagnose what they know, what they don't, what they need to improve, what works for them better, what works for them, worse. And you can find out their needs within the diagnostic test as well. So you diagnose the current situation when you already have a group of students at an approximately the same level. However, the diagnostic test can sometimes help find out the real level as well. Progress and achievement test. What is the difference? Over to you. What do you think? What is the difference between a progress and an achievement test? Can you type in the chat box? What is the difference between a progress test and an achievement test? Progress, if the students have become, if a student has become any better than the student used to be, okay. To see how well you've learned vocabulary, grammar from the unit, that's progress test, okay, thank you. Natalia, progress test is done when the theme is covered. Okay, Elizabeth, achievement if the student has achieved a certain learning goal. That's a good one. That's a good explanation. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you for your answers. Those who have answered, stars for you. Thank you, Anna. Yes, achievement at the end of the course. So a progress test is usually, yes, the shorter version, and this is a summary or a conclusion of what you've covered in a certain number of lessons, in a certain unit, module, topic, or however you divide your learning sections there. So usually a progress test is focused around knowledge, such as vocabulary, grammar, or just a simple task on skills. Yes, achievement tests, when we when we kind of group we take a time frame and we group the skills and the knowledge that the students should have gained or should have achieved, the goals they should have achieved, and we check how much they've achieved at a certain point in the course. So an achievement test can happen, let's say 2-3 times during a semester. If you are teaching according to that, if your semester is long enough, progress test can happen faster. Yes, the achievement tests are usually longer and they have a bigger, wider scope of what they are testing. And usually it's not just grammar and vocabulary, it includes skills, because if we are teaching using communicative approach, then we are interested in skills development in the first place. And that's why lots of achievement tests focus around that. Okay, direct and indirect. Yeah, and an achievement test can be final, it can be midterm. You can have it a couple of times during the learning process. Direct and indirect test, what is the difference? Can we try and type our ideas in the chat box? Direct and indirect. Okay, Olga. Indirect, when a student is assessed during each lesson. Elizaveta, indirect, maybe when the student doesn't know he's being tested. Kind of close. Natalia, direct when the student is aware. Metro, when you inform students, this is when you use a direct test. Okay, Valentina, direct. Okay, you're gonna type something more. Yeah. Indirect, you do not tell them. Direct, student is informed about assessing. The thing is, direct oral test, Olga, indirect written test in most cases. The thing is, direct, both tests happen when students know that it's a test. It doesn't necessarily mean that they don't know that they are being evaluated, but a direct test is the test that tests straight and exactly what it's aimed at testing. For instance, if you are giving a grammar, if you want to check your students' grammar knowledge, you're giving them a task that asks them to choose the correct option, and there is only grammar. Open the brackets, choose the word, fill in the gaps, something that tests grammar directly. An indirect test is the one that tests what you want to test indirectly with the use or with the help of other, perhaps, skills or knowledge. For example, a writing task can also be an indirect test of grammar and spelling. So you're giving your students a task to write a story, for example, but when you check it, one of your criteria is a grammar range or grammar accuracy. Yeah, grammar range is and the number of different grammar structures they've used. The accuracy is how correctly they've used the grammar. So that will be an indirect test of grammar, and so on. So yeah, are we good with direct and indirect test difference? Can you show some either smiles or questions or exclamation marks? Okay, see some smiley faces. Great. Thank you very much. Great, perfect. Thank you. Okay, and paper-based and computer-based. I guess that's quite self-explanatory, and it relates to the format of the test that we're taking. Just going to say that the paper-based test is the one that is delivered in a paper form. Computer-based test is the one that is delivered on a computer. Cambridge exams, for example, exist in those two versions. Paper-based, you can take an exam on a paper or on a computer. All of them can be taken in these forms, except for young learners exams and TKT test for teachers. Okay, moving on. Thank you everyone for being so active. Let's take a look at an example task and evaluate it from the perspective of a teacher who was thinking of using this one, the same task in their teaching practice. In here, we have a group of students of elementary level group of students, A2, and they've just started a general course that will last for 4 weeks. The teacher is going to see how well their listening skills are developed, and the teacher is going to give the following task to their students, and this is the task from A2 key exam, the listening one, or CAT, as it used to be called. Can you take a look at the task, at the audio script, and think about this test as the one that should be testing listening, and whether you think it's effective or no, whether you think this is an appropriate test or no, and how beneficial perhaps it could be for your learners, for your students. So just take a look at the test from the perspective of a teacher and share your thoughts and comments in the chat box. What do you think? Is it a good test? Is it an effective one? What kind of test it is? Share in the chat box, please. Okay, I see some pluses, which probably means that it's a good test. Elena, listening for detailed information. Okay, smiley face, thank you. So pluses probably mean that it's a good test to be used at an A2 level course, groups of students to test the listening skills. You think it's okay, Elizaveta? Great. Tatiana, it's quite a challenge for this level. Elena, boring. You know, sometimes, yes, it's kind of a drawback of lots of tests. Hopefully it's not going to be boring for the students though. Could be challenging depending on a level of a student. Yes, if A2, if we take an A2 level, it can also be the beginning of the A2 and the end of the A2, depending on what kind of students we have. So actually, not so good as no paraphrasing. Well, paraphrasing at an A2 level could be, you know, something that students are not familiar with. Paraphrasing is a bit of a task for a bit of a higher level students. It's difficult. Okay, lots of us think that it's difficult. Thank you. That's you know, something that can be difficult for your students if you know their level well. Yes, this is the example of a task that you might get actually when you take a Delta Module 1 exam. The Delta is a step higher than the CELTA. And Module 1 is the exam where you get different tasks on methodology. One of them is related to evaluating a test, and this is an example of that. When I was preparing for a Delta Module 1, I did not like this kind of task because you do have to look at the different aspects of testing and evaluate it from different perspectives. But once you get more practice in that, it's not as challenging as it looks in the first place. Let's take a look at the evaluation in the Delta way. These are the answers from the Delta paper. So the positive points of that test is that it is suitable for the level of the learners. If it's an A2 level test, then it's an A2 level task. If the group is quite strong, we've seen some comments in the chat box like that. Objective marking, there is only one correct answer. It's a direct listening test, which increases face validity. We're going to talk about validity and the types of it soon. There is an example answer provided. I will come back and just point your attention to the words that are filled in. And it's quite clear what to do. It's quite clear for the students what to do. The negative points, there is no opportunities for fresh starts. And fresh starts is a term that we use when we want to give our students not just one chance, not just a single chance to do the task. If a test contains only one task, it means that students have only one chance to get it right. And that is the question that is related, that we're going to cover as well, how the tests are constructed. And we do need to give our students several chances because oftentimes they will be able to deal with another kind of task better for different reasons. And there is only one task and the exam is quite short. So this is quite a short way of testing, evaluating their listening. Better to have several tasks of different kinds. Yes, and spelling, yes, Olena, spelling is important in this part because they have to write the word, but it depends on whether you pay attention to spelling when you check it or no, whether spelling is the part of the criteria or no. So if you aim at checking their listening skills, you're going to be focusing in the first place on evaluating the listening, not the spelling. If spelling is part of your test, it's going to be then an indirect test of spelling, and you're going to include it into your checking system or evaluation criteria. Okay, now we're going to look at 5 characteristics of a good test. And those are the principles, the basic principles of assessment according to methodology, according to Cambridge assessment principles of test making and exam creation. And we're going to do it in this way. You're going to see letters appearing on the screen. So once I switch the next slide, you're going to see letters of the word appearing. And I want you to guess what word is going to be there in a second or two. Okay, so once you see the first letter, the second letter, and you instantly understand what word it is, that is the next word in this sentence, a good test should be, please type it in the chat box. So let's have a race of us typing the words as soon as we know what it is in the chat box, and then we're going to look at this term in more detail. All right, so when I switch on the slide, you see the letters, you know what word it is going to be, you type it in the chat box. Ready, steady, go. P, R, A, C, T, I, C, A, L. Yes, practical, practical. Lots of us have guessed. Yes, most of them are going to be adjectives. Sorry, didn't mention that. The adjectives here today. Yes, so a good test should be practical. And we come to talking about practicality as one of the main features of a good test. What does it mean, a practical test? It means that it's efficient and it's useful in terms of design and preparation, which means that it doesn't take you, for example, 7 hours to create it and only 10 minutes for students to take it. So it should be resource-wise, it should be economical, resource-wise. It should also be practical in terms of administration and delivery. How you organize it, how you administer the test is also important, as when you create it, we should be thinking about how we deliver the test and how it's going to be organized in the place we do it. And scoring and interpretation. Does scoring look like a secret code, a secret Da Vinci code to everyone? Or can students and parents and whoever else is interested in the results interpret them and understand their score easily? That's the term that's part of practicality. And when you are either creating a test yourself or choosing the test, choosing the exam to organize, these are the 5 questions that we should be asking ourselves. Is the test time consuming? Is it too expensive or no to deliver? Usually it's related to the more formal ones when the school is organizing it on its level, or the international exams. Is it within appropriate time limit? Is it going to be effective in terms of timing? Administration and the evaluation procedure, is it specific enough? So the test is practical if it is effective and useful in terms of resources that you have available. Now, let's look at one more word that's quite short. So let's be quick and see whether we can guess the next term. V-A-L. I-D. Yes, valid. So a good test should be valid. And test validity is a complex term. It's a term that describes the approach of the testing to the learning theories and methodology and background from one hand. From the other hand, it consists of several subcategories, and we're going to look at them together too. So test validity is, for example, when you are designing a test and it's testing English using the same methodology that you used when you are teaching it. So if we are teaching English using communicative approach, then the test should be using the same approach in its tasks. We cannot use grammar translation method in order to check communicative tasks and the mastery of the skills on the one hand. On the other hand, test validity is also when the test follows the common standards that are used to teach the language. In our case, this is the level system, the accepted one, the internationally accepted one, the Common European Framework of References, and that is how, for instance, Cambridge exams are designed. They follow the Common European Framework of Reference levels, and they give the description of the abilities of the students according to those levels, and they use communicative approach in their tasks as well. Let's take a look at this at several subcategories of test validity. However, there are more. Of course, we're just covering those today. I'll remind you guys, if there's something not understandable because we're getting, into the depth of terminology and assessment, can you please let us know in the chat box? The question marks, the smiley faces, the exclamation marks are welcome. All right. So contract validity is basically how is the term that describes how the test is organized and constructed, the content of the tasks, how they are put together, and what they are focusing on. Taking Cambridge exams as the example, we have 4 skills as the main parts of the test: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Some levels, starting from B2 level, we also have a use of English part introduced, the 5th element of the language knowledge, the use of English tests, lexis, and grammar itself. So contract validity is how the test and the tasks are organized, and the content. Cognitive related validity is the criteria when you design a test or a task and you know that candidates who take this test will be able to deal with the tasks and to master, to tackle everything you ask them to do using their existing cognitive processes. So you do not want to challenge students with the tasks they cannot cognitively process, because we're not in the language tests, we're not checking their cognitive ability other than the ability to use the language. That's the ability to use the language is a very challenging cognitive process, but you don't want to be testing anything else apart from that. No logical thinking, critical something thinking. Yes, we do integrate those into language teaching, and that's a trend, but tests usually do not test that. Cambridge exams as well make sure that the candidates will be able to complete the tasks. The context is the situation, the environment, the general outline of where the test is taken, who takes the test, who administers the test, what kind of cultural background candidates have. So that's a context validity. And then face validity is the easiest term of those, I would say. This is whether the candidates and, for example, their parents see the test as the one that is a true test, that it can be trusted, and that looks like a real test to them. So face validity is when the test looks like a test that is supposed to test what it's supposed to test to the candidates. And it's quite an important part because with Cambridge exams, again, they do look reliable to most candidates and to most students, and therefore they are trusted, and students are motivated to take them because they know that the results will show the real picture, the real situation of what they have. All right. Any questions, comments, anything? Okay, Elizaveta, thank you for the smiley face. Thank you. Okay, great. Moving on then. Moving on. Thank you for your smiley faces. Okay. Let's take a look at a couple of examples related to practicality and validity of a test. These are the examples of the tasks from A2 Key Exam or CAT. On the left, we have a reading task. And that's the task that asks them to read the note and to choose one of the sentences on the left. And then again, we read the note and we choose one of the sentences. What do you think in terms of practicality? If you as a teacher take that task and you want to check your students' reading skills, reading the ability to read at an A2 level, elementary, would you say that this is quite a valid task? Can you type in the chat box yes or plus or no or okay, yes. So we can say that this is quite a valid task, part of the test. It does look valid. It is a direct test of reading, and we can use that at an A2 level. Great. On the right, it looks typical. Yes, it does. And that's another thing, that tests do not have to surprise candidates. The more the candidate knows and the more he or she is prepared before the test, the calmer they will feel, usually. And that's another thing we're going to talk about the affective state of students a little bit later today. On the right, we have the pictures and the writing task. We want to check our students' writing. They're still at an A2 level. We ask them to look at 3 pictures, write the story as shown in the pictures, and the story should be 35 words or more. Would you say that it's a practical and valid task, part of a test, not the whole test, that can test the writing skills? What do you think? Natalia, yes. Maybe they could do more like 60 words, Elizaveta? That's a good question. We often, when it comes to A2 level, lower levels, we often see that Ukrainian teachers are a little bit more demanding to their students than, for example, the exam tasks, which is good. If your students at an A2 level can do 60 words, perfect, fine. They're going to do that task, easy. Why not? But we don't want to put too much pressure on them. Yes, if we build the skill, if we build their ability gradually, and before they write 60 words, they've written 50 and they've written 35 and they've written 25 before that, and they've arrived to the point of 60, fine, why not? Which tense should a student use, Olga? You're asking that. Good question. First of all, it depends on the criteria. Again, let's look at the test tasks from the point of view of the criteria. If you are asking an A2 level student to do a writing task like that, you should not be expecting them to use anything more complex than present simple, past simple, present continuous if we're lucky, future will as well, but we are describing pictures, so I would say present simple, present continuous, past simple maximum. All right, we don't want to stress them too much. You have a task and think, and there's 50 words invitation, right, to task. Well, yeah, it happens. But the exam style tasks, would not want them writing more than 35 words in this situation. Narrative tenses, I don't think that teaching narrative tenses, honestly, at an A2 level is a very good idea. The key message here would be, let's teach them a little bit more, a little bit less range of tenses, but let's make them use them, but not just know them. Okay, so that's just my subjective opinion, but in an A2 level, Cambridge exams, for example, and the program, the descriptions that we're using, it is better to teach them the basic tenses, and they will be able to use them appropriately, and then move on to more complex ones. So if we talk about narrative tenses more than past simple, which means that we're talking about past continuous and past perfect, and then past perfect continuous, God bless to have it at an elementary level. So that's probably something we want to teach them on a level higher, B1 and higher. 35 words are enough at this level to show the range and the ability in terms of writing a story, writing skills for the students. Should a teacher specify what tense to use? Depends on what you're testing. Again, depends on what you are testing. If you are testing the writing, you do not, and you are evaluating the writing, you do not specify the tenses. If you are using it as an indirect test of grammar, then you say that, yes, guys, but you remember that you have to use this and that tense here. And then you'll check how well they've used that. In a Cambridge exam, they do not evaluate the tense use in here strictly. There are criteria that focus more on the ability to describe the task, to structure their writing, to build sentences and things like that, but not, there is no detailed specification in terms of tense use in here. Okay, let's move on. Thank you for your questions. So one more term, one more characteristic and the description of a good test. R, E, L, I, A, B, L, E. Yes, reliable. A good test should be reliable, and the term is reliability. So what kind of test is a reliable one, and what is reliability? This is the consistency or the ability of the test to show similar results for similar groups of students. For instance, if you have two groups of students of the same level and they take the same test, the results should be, the average ones should be similar. If the same student takes the same test on a Monday morning and then Tuesday afternoon, the results should be the same. Okay, so this is the consistency. The reliability of the test is the ability to show the same results in different conditions, in different groups of students. Dependability is the synonym to trustworthiness. So this is when you can trust the results and you rely on the exam or on a test as the reliable source of information. And the trust is a great word when it comes to not just exams and testing, to everything. So can you trust this test or no? Can you trust its results? And Cambridge Assessment English takes these terms very seriously, and the procedures that they use to control the quality and effectiveness. I'm going to show that one in the principles of good testing practices are quite important. So this is when it comes to reliability, there are certain factors that can affect it. For example, the length of the test. The length of the test can influence the results. If the test is 5 hours long, it's not a surprise that the candidates will feel, for example, will feel tired. And that's why they're going to perhaps show a little bit lower results if we don't give them breaks, if we don't create certain conditions. The administration of the test, how the test is conducted, it also may affect the results at the end. And the affective status of students. Yeah, Olga, I'm going to comment on that. Yes. So the affective status of students seems like something abstract. However, the students, when we prepare our students, we mostly focus on the language. We train them and we do all the tasks, but an important factor that sometimes may just upset everyone involved in the testing process is the psychological readiness and the ability to deal with stress within the candidates. And this is the affective status. Have we, as test providers, as the administration, have we on our side provided and created all the necessary conditions for our candidates to feel safe and secure and to try and relieve as much stress as we can? This is one question. Another question, have we as teachers prepared them to the test and prepared them morally, mentally to take that test? And in this situation, the more the candidates know what to expect at the test, the calmer they feel. Usually this works. And that is why Cambridge exams, again, they do not have any, almost, of course, in terms of creation, test creation, they do not hide anything from teachers. They display all the criteria, all the recommendations, all the information. They describe what's going to happen on the exam day. Everything is in the open. And they even show how exams are made. If we, yeah, Olga, proper points for the tasks, our ZNO is 150 minutes long. Yeah, ZNO is another burning issue that we can talk about, sure. And it's an example of a test that is not balanced enough, if we may say. We do have lots of questions to that, of course. And if we just, I'm commenting on that. If we take ZNO as the test from the point of view of test construction, validity of a test construction, we know that it doesn't test all the 4 skills. Yes, it doesn't test speaking. It focuses on the other parts. And we're going to look at one more term that symbolizes the preparation and how it is affected if the test doesn't focus on everything you teach. Before that, reliability and validity. If you are, imagine, teaching a skills-based short language course, 4 weeks, short language course, and you're focusing on the skills, let's say listening and reading mostly, listening and speaking mostly. And when you are teaching the course, you give your students a multiple choice grammar test. So the grammar test might be valid in terms of construction, cognitive processes, face validity. Yes, it looks like it's a real test. It doesn't need candidates anything more than using the language they've learned. It's constructed appropriately, but is it going to be a reliable test to show students' abilities on this kind of a course? Yes, exactly. It doesn't assess what you have taught them or what you are teaching them. So a test can be valid, but it's not going to be reliable if it doesn't test what you need it to test in your context. So taking any test, one thing is construction, another thing application, how it is related to what you're teaching and how it's checking what you want it to check. So in our situation here on a skills-based short language course, a skills test would be the one that will help you here. Listening and speaking, several tasks, focusing on different sub-skills, general understanding, detailed understanding, the descriptors, and then that would be the one to use here. Okay, one more term The fourth one. A, U, T, H, E, N, T, I, C. Yes, authentic. Authenticity is the term. The test should be authentic. Quite an interesting word, which sometimes causes either skepticism or debates in the teachers' rooms. Authenticity of a test is when it's using the language of communication, the real language that is really used and that is internationally accepted and recognized. So the test should be using the kind of English that has been taught and the kind of English that is really used in the real life. So we cannot be using outdated words. We cannot be using, for instance, Russian English constructions, some far-fetched phrases, some words that are not often, or expressions that are not often low frequency. We call them low frequency vocabulary. Yes, you cannot be, if we're testing our students who have been studying, general English, British English or the American English version, you cannot test them with a test that has Australian English in it, or New Zealand, yes, kind of English, or some kind of dialects or accents or regional kinds of English. So we do need to test them with the language we've taught them. The Cambridge exams say that they use an international English, and that's a term we also use. We teach international English, which means a variety of Englishes. And if candidates take a Cambridge exam, we say you can be using either the British or the American version of English as long as you are consistent. Okay, so consistency and authenticity here. Fifth one. The fifth one is not, it's not a typical adjective, as you are getting used to already right now, but try to guess. W-A-S-H-B-A-C. K. Washback. Yes, washback. The washback effect is the fifth term today, the fifth element of a good test. So the washback effect is the effect that the test has on teaching and learning process that happens before the test. And it can be either positive or negative. A positive washback effect is when you and your students know that you have a test at the end and you know the criteria, but it helps you to structure your teaching and learning. It helps to organize, it helps to balance out, and everyone benefits from it. So it's just seeing the goal, using the criteria that become effective in terms of language knowledge and mastery. A negative washback effect is when you either solely focus on what's going to happen in the test, the tasks themselves, you do not teach the balanced kind of English, yes, if we talk about communicative methodology. And that's the example of ZNO. If we prepare our students only for that test, oftentimes it happens that we stop paying attention to developing speaking skills with our students, which then leads them to not being able to use English in the real life appropriately, because we're not teaching for the sake of testing, we're teaching for them to be able to use the language at the end of the day. So the effect that the test has could be either positive or negative, and this is our job as teachers to balance and to choose what we want to do with our students, even when we know that there is the test coming. Okay, are we okay? Are we good with the terminology, with the 5 characteristics? Smiley faces, pluses also, great. Yeses also. Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. Everyone who answered in the chat, who did the tasks, stars for you all, everyone who's answering now as well. Thank you very much. Quick recap. The first, let's remember the terms we've just covered. The first one, P, can you type in the chat box? Practical, yes, practical. The test should be practical or practicality. V, the test should be valid, yes. R, the test should be reliable. A, the test should be authentic. And W, that stands for washback. The test should have the washback effect, should have a positive washback effect. Great. So all these terms are actually studied within the Delta preparation course. When I was studying it with Kate Plutenko was my tutor. I'm very thankful for her for being so patient and for teaching us all the strategies necessary to take the Delta Module 1 exam. She put it all, in our heads in a structured way. And I hope, yes, she is, absolutely. And she's our director of teacher training, running courses at Grade. So she structured it all for us, and then it became a little bit clearer. So those things we're covering today will be useful for you at a Delta exam. If you're planning on taking CELTA, that will be really helpful, and you're going to pleasantly surprise your tutors with this knowledge, I am sure. Let's look at the example of a task. This is a B2 first use of English task, and you are now teaching students of an upper intermediate level B2. You want to check their lexical range and knowledge of the lexis. You are giving them this task. Can you take a look at this task and think of it from the perspective of practicality, validity, reliability, authenticity, and washback? It's not enough information, I know, and it's not the complete test, but take a look at this kind of task and see if you can evaluate it from the point of view of practicality, validity, and all the other terms we've just covered. Share your thoughts in the chat box. What do you think? 1 or 2 sentences, that will be great. Is the test practical? Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's quite a practical task, and it doesn't take you long to create it, to print it, and to deliver it. To check as well, valid. Yes, it's constructed in a way that it's valid. It uses communicative approach as the basis. You have the text, the context for the words. It does test the lexical knowledge at the phrase level, not just the words separately in an isolated way. That's a reliable way of testing. Authentic, yes. Real English, yes. And the washback effect depends on us as teachers, of course. The tasks that I'm showing, the ones for the Cambridge exams, and the preparation for them are usually contained in the handbooks for teachers, which are provided for free for everyone who's preparing for the exams. And we are sending the links for those handbooks. There are lots of advice on how to approach each task. And even if you're just looking at that, you will get just some great tips on how to teach this or that kind of language, how to prepare students, the general tips and strategies as well. Really useful book for the teachers. So take a look at those. We're moving on to principles of good testing practice. And here you have the image of our center, Grade Education Center. We are proudly saying that it's been 10 years since we've been administering Cambridge exams, and we are a platinum exam center. We are the biggest one in Ukraine, and we each year we have almost 5,000 students, candidates taking exams with us. We work all across Ukraine and have more than 100 partners in our chain of preparation centers. I'm going to talk about that a bit later. The message here is that the status that we are very proud of course, means and shows that we've been using principles of good testing practice every day in our test administration and in our approach to everyone who we work with. Good testing practice and the people and the team, of course. So there are three key principles of good testing practice that we have been using and that are recommended by Cambridge Assessment. First of all, it is fitness for purpose. So we administer the exams that are specific and then have a purpose and that are suitable for any kind of learner with any kind of language aim and of any ability. And of course, the exams and everything that is related to them are learner oriented. If we take a look at the range of Cambridge exams, here we have the scale that shows the levels, the language levels according to Common European Framework of Reference, and the range of exams that we have for different groups and different contexts. Schools can administer the exam, can start taking Cambridge exams from primary school, from grade 2. This is young learners exams, then grade 4 and up to grade 11. And this is what we usually recommend to build the step system. And I'm going to show you the step system a little bit soon. The step system, which will allow our learners to achieve a goal, to get a proof that they know the language at a certain level, and then to set another goal and reach it and set another goal. And with time, our students become accustomed to taking exams. They develop great exam skills. By the time they get to grade 11, they are already, proficient in exam taking, and the B2 first exam will let them have DPA, for example, automatically counted, if you may say that, B1 for grades 9, B2 for grades 11 in specialized schools. So building up the system is a great tool that lots of our partners that are general schools are using nowadays. C1 and C2, those are usually higher level exams, great motivation for the teacher to take the challenge and to prove their language skills to everyone and the world. The general and higher education, universities, language schools are also using this scale in order to develop the system of exams for their adult learners. A2 key exam is quite popular among those who are traveling to Denmark for work purposes. And we run all kinds of exam sessions at our center, also in the premises of our partners. And that's one of the benefits of our partnership programs. The business English exams also, there are 3 types of those, and the multi-level test, the Lingua Skill is the new one. And this is the computer adaptive test created by Cambridge. IELTS is also in the scale. It's created by Cambridge Assessment. It's administered by 2 other organizations in Ukraine. Now, that's a range and that's the fitness of purpose of exams. Another principle is communication and collaboration. And when it comes to exams, it means, first of all, providing enough information for all stakeholders. Stakeholders, those are people who are involved in the process of exam taking, candidates, parents, schools, administration, everyone. Support and preparation, talking about our partners, we support our preparation centers, schools, language schools, institutions, when they prepare the exams, for the exams. And cooperation is the key to building a good relationship, of course. The primary source, and I'm just going to show it briefly, I'm sure you know it, where you will find lots of useful information about the exams, teaching, learning resources, everything you need is the Cambridge English site. So do visit it and take a look at more information about exams. The third principle is quality and accountability. Quality is very important. And this means that there are lots of policies, processes, and procedures prepared for everyone involved in exam administration. We have a team of exam managers in our center, invigilators, speaking examiners, who are constantly trained and then evaluated as well. The quality assurance is for example, the centers, the exam centers that are involved in ordering the materials from Cambridge, delivering the exam, then packing it all, sending it back to Cambridge and receiving the certificates are also checked, and there is a certain quality assurance procedure. We do not check anything ourselves here. We administer, and we are the representatives and on the grounds here in Ukraine. The test development and research, that's an interesting, absolutely interesting resource. And we publish a lot of things related to exams on our Facebook page, Great Education Center. This is the image that shows how the exam is made and the development process. And usually it takes almost 2 years to create an exam. And that's why it's a huge and rigorous process of planning, development, testing, reviewing, testing again, and then planning new exams and new products. An exam is a product being released and introduced. The computer adaptive test that I've already mentioned is the new new approach of Cambridge to testing and letting students and candidates prove their language level within 48 hours. The exam, of course, requires preparation. Any kind of Cambridge exam does require preparation. This is the test that doesn't require any preparation. Within 48 hours, you can register for the test, take it on a computer. The tasks will adapt. The computer will use this sophisticated system which will adapt the tasks depending on the answers you give, and you will receive the electronic certificate from Cambridge within 48 hours. So if you are looking at a simple way on how to get the proof of the level, this is the one to look at. And this test is quite interesting for those who are working at universities, looking for ways to evaluate their students' level, admissions, which is the university level entry test, for example, recruitment for the organizations that need evaluation of the level of their employees or candidates, progress, see whether your learners are making it or no, and graduation. Also, university students might be interested in that. A couple of resources for you to use in your teaching practice that are also related to exam preparation. A great site, do take a look at it when you have a minute, Write and Improve. It lets you practice writing skills for different kinds of exams. There are ready-to-use tasks divided by levels, by types of writing. There is a system that checks your writing and gives feedback. Quite an interesting tool to use in your classroom. The other kind of partner site, similar looking project is Speak and Improve, also created for everyone preparing for Cambridge exams. The site lets you talk to the computer, to a robot, and get your speaking checked and evaluated. Take a look at that. It's quite fun. One more resource for you to use is Practice Makes Perfect. This is the site that gives you access to downloadable lesson plans and exam preparation tasks that you can simply find, download, and use in your teaching practice. Teacher tips are there as well. Support pack for teachers was released during when the pandemic started. So this is the place, and you have a link in the chat box, which contains this kind of an electronic e-journal, if you may call it, contains all the resources for every exam in one place. As you can see here, handbooks for teachers, lesson plans, progress charts, sample papers, flashcards, word lists, activities on the computer, videos, anything you need is just collected for you here. You don't have to search around for all of them. They are in one place. If you are preparing your students for a B1 preliminary for schools, and that's an exam that is commonly taken by 9th graders, take a look at this one, recommended to your students. That's an app that your learners can install and practice for exam in a fun way. And we know how teenagers like gamification and everything related to it. Great design, tasks that engage and allow to practice and improve English at the same time and prepare for exams. One more quite interesting and challenging one, an app that lets you battle people from across the world in your knowledge of English. Quiz your English, you do tasks on grammar, vocabulary knowledge, perhaps skills in a fun way, and you prepare for exams and improve English. This is the step system that I was talking about, and this is the one that we usually recommend our partner schools to build within their programs. The steps that let our learners begin setting goals from the very early age and prove the language knowledge every step they take in our school and education system. The partners that I've been talking about, those are the schools and institutions that are registered in the system of Cambridge and that have the status of the official preparation centers preparing for Cambridge exams. We do travel all around Ukraine, delivering and organizing exams in the premises of our partners. We support them. We provide them opportunities for professional development, different bonuses and benefits of working with us in the form of certificates, plaques, logos, and everything else. If you would like to find out more, visit our site, fill in the application, and our managers will contact you and tell you a little more about the partnership program and the benefits. Now, one more important part of Great Education Center is the Teacher Training Center and the qualifications we provide for teachers. The tasks we've been looking at and the things we've been talking about today were more of a Delta level knowledge. However, we are running Delta and CELTA courses as well as CELT-B, CELT-S, and TKT preparation. We are the biggest center for CELTA in Ukraine. We have received ministry approval for 3 of our programs, which means that teachers can now take CELT-S, CELT-B, and TKT preparation courses and have them qualified as the official hours of their professional development. Therefore, we do have proof. We have everything on the site. Check it out yourselves. Choose the appropriate or the suitable course for you and develop professionally with us. Different courses, different lengths, different purposes. CELTA is the most known one. CELT-S is CELTA for secondary school teachers, CELT-P is the CELTA for primary school teachers, and TKT is the teaching knowledge test, and there is the course that prepares for it. So you can prepare for the TKT with us and get your methodology certificate that proves your knowledge of tools and methodology as a teacher. And our new project that we've recently launched and are very proud of is the IELTS preparation course on our platform Grade Online. This is the self-study course that lets you prepare for IELTS academic yourself and gives you all the necessary tools for that. If you are considering, or if you are preparing your learners for IELTS academic, you will be pleasantly surprised by the variety of things and the amount of material there is on the platform. Practical tasks, study guides, timed, the system that checks your writing, feedback and comments from teachers, knowledge bank, different video tutorials, more than 40 hours of practice, lots and lots of good features, the diagnostic tests and feedback as well, that let you or your students practice and to get ready for IELTS academic. All 4 sections same as the sections of the test, the strategies and tips. And by the time you finish the course, we believe that you will master all the strategies, exam strategies necessary to reach the band score that you need in IELTS Academic. What you can do is you can go and check out the site, register for a free trial, do the tasks, go through the diagnostic tests, take a look at study plans, and then you can take a look at the plans that you have, that we have for you to buy the course. And today we're giving you a 20 euro discount on any plan for this course. So you can use the promo code webinar and get a 20 euro discount on any plan of IELTS grade course basic or complete. The basic plan lets you study and have unlimited access to all platform resources and materials, and the complete plan on top of that allows you to get feedback from our IELTS as experts, full writing and speaking test, and a lesson with our IELTS tutor. Olga, I see your question and I'll be answering it shortly. Sure. I'll be answering it now because that's time for a Q&A. We are a bit late, but I hope you are still here and you do have questions to ask. Will there be CELTA in summer 2021? I'm sure there will. Olga, I'm sure there will. Not sure that we have the schedule ready. But if you are interested in taking part of that, you can follow our social media and be there when the registration opens. Or you can take a look at our site, Grade UA CELTA Delta. The link is there in the chat box, and see if we already have the dates for the next year. Are there any questions? Any more questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for staying. Apologies for the delay, time management and things, but there are so many things to talk about that I hope you don't regret staying a bit longer. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Have a great rest of the week. Have a great afternoon. Could we by any chance get a webinar on student placement because I ended up picking a wrong course book? Elizabeth, I'm not sure what your question is about. A webinar on student placement. Defining a level. I'm not sure we've had such a webinar, but that's your wish for the topic of the webinars in the future, if I understand it right. If it's that, yes, that's a great idea. Thank you very much. We'll take it into account, evaluating the students' level and placement tests. Okay, thank you for the idea. Yeah, that's a great one. Thank you all so much. You will get an email from us containing the recording, the presentation, and the certificates and the useful links we've mentioned today. Thank you again. See you at our future webinars. One more thing, we are going to run more webinars for teachers, so stay tuned. Follow our social media, Grade UA Facebook, Grade Teacher Training Facebook page. We are posting everything there, or look at the emails that are coming from us, from Katerina Protenka, and see you soon at our future online events. Thank you. Bye.